Okay, we were discussing the reliability of the Old Testament, and we went over Joseph. Is he a fictional character, or is there precedent, historical evidence that he did actually exist? We have some subject here. If you look at the index on that topic, look for the Joseph, and then scroll on down. I looked at Acts chapter 7. Stephen was giving his sermon and his history lesson to Israel before they stoned him to death. And he went into detail about Joseph. So we have some historical evidence to support his history evidence, his history lesson. Let's take a look at Joseph. Scroll all the way down. I did a lot of stuff in J. Well, there's a lot to John. And Joseph. Archaeological evidence of Joseph in Egypt under index J. In Acts chapter 7 refers to Stephen's history lesson, and I got some evidence here from the internet. These are different pictures of that site in Egypt. Above the River Nile's first cataract, the formidable rapids of Aswan, a granite boulder with a hieroglyphic writings were discovered. A sculptor who evidently lived in about over 1,000 years later than the events he described, chiseled out the account of an individual called Imhotep, who saved his country from 7 years of famine. Let's take a look at those pictures. They were discovered recently in this century. I say recently. Other inscriptions were found on a monument at Horemheb, a pharaoh who came to rule several years after the Exodus, providing evidence of the story of the pharaoh in Joseph's day, extending an invitation to Jacob's family to come live in Egypt. The inscriptions tell of a community of shepherds from the north asking Egypt to allow them to pasture their cattle, as was the custom of the father of their fathers from the beginning. A picture was found on a wall in the tomb of Tehuti-Hetep in Bershesh of a herd of Syrian cattle entering Egypt with the inscription, "Once you trod the Syrian sands, now here in Egypt you shall feed in green pastures." At another excavation at the Step Pyramid at Saqqara, fragments of a statue of Pharaoh Dozier were found. The face was inscribed with the names of Dozier and Imhotep, Chancellor of the King of Lower Egypt, Chief under the King, Administrator of the Great Palace, Hereditary Lord, High Priest of Helopius, Imhotep, the builder, the sculptor, and the maker of stone vases. Famous guy. Inscription showing the name and titulary of Imhotep in the third row to the left, and the Horus name of Dozier. This inscription was found on the base of a sculpture in Dozier, thus indicating Imhotep was a real man as opposed to a god. Archaeological evidence shows that it was during the time of Dozier that Egypt became a great nation. During his reign, a large complex was built at Saqqara, Egypt, which contained the future burial site of the pharaoh. Here's the picture. Surrounding the Step Pyramid, the first ever built, is a very beautiful and elaborate wall containing 13 false entrances and one real on the east wall at the southern. There it is, and there's a map of it. This entrance led into a system of huge grain storage bins. When one enters, one encounters a long hall of 40 columns, 20 on each side. Each column is connected to the main wall by a perpendicular wall, forming small rooms between each column. There you go. At the entrance to this complex, there were 40 small cubicles between columns, each just the right size to hold a single person who could administer the receipt of payment from people coming to purchase grain. It is evident that these cubicles did not contain statues, as some contend, because there were found no remains of statues or the pedestals upon which they would be placed. There's somewhat of a picture here, a photograph, and then a picture of a man drawn there. And Joseph said unto Pharaoh, "Gather all the food of those good years, that come and lay up corn under the hands of Pharaoh, Genesis 41:25 and 35. And here's some pictures of those bins nearby the burial site of the pyramid. So as you exit this colonnade and walk straight ahead, you come to a series of very large pits, which we're looking at now, which extend deep into the earth. These are extremely large in size, much larger than any burial chamber. They are all centrally accessible by a connecting tunnel. They extend to well above ground level, and one has a staircase extending down by a connecting tunnel. And you take a look at over here. So here's the staircase. They extend to well above ground level, and one has a staircase extending down to the bottom, say below. It is evident that they were not built as burial tombs because they were not constructed underground and were so incredibly large. So above is the staircase that leads to a central exit point for all the grain storage bins. These massive structures extend to well above ground level, which indicates that they were not hidden, as were tombs, in order to prevent tomb robbers from taking the belongings that the pharaoh would be buried with. Note that there were found bins which matched the above-ground bins which were set aside for the king and his family's afterlife. And in these bins were found grain and other foodstuffs. There are 11 pits, with only one containing a very elaborate stairway all the way to the bottom, which we looked at. All the pits are connected to each other by a subterranean tunnel. The pits were evidently capable of being filled and the top sealed with wooden timbers and stone. Hence all of the grain could be accessed from one entrance. The one entrance where we looked at, where we had a picture of a man there taking grain. The one entrance into the pits from outside the wall enclosure of the complex. Last of all, grain was found in the floor of these pits. So what was there? We've got the grain. So in the absence of any evidence of anyone being buried in these pits, which skeptics maintain, the grain found at the bottom of their massive size and their being above the ground, the best conclusion is that they were used as storage bins for grain to feed the people. So, in Acts chapter 7, Stephen continued his historical narrative summary of Joseph and the rest of the fathers, the patriarchs of Israel, the 12 sons of Jacob. Now a famine and a great trouble came all over the land of Egypt, and our fathers in the sense of the sons of Jacob, from whom the 12 tribes of Israel were descendants. But when Jacob heard that there was grain in Egypt, he sent out our fathers first, referring to his sons who were the fathers of the tribes of Israel, in the sense of being their firstborn. And the second time Joseph was made known to his brothers, and Joseph's family became known to the Pharaoh. And Joseph, having sent, did call for his father Jacob and all of his kindred, with 70 and 5 souls. Note that Stephen did not err with the count of 75 souls, as some contend. Stephen's count was from the Septuagint, reflecting a different means of counting. Anyway, we've gone farther into that. But you read this account of Stephen, it's an excellent account of history from the Old Testament. Precisely corroborates. Stephen didn't make it up. He followed what the Old Testament showed, and then we have another corroboration. Let's go back to the Bible study, letter 6 of the Lachish letters that we're looking at that were found. Joseph Free points out that the close relationship between letter 6 and Jeremiah's writings. J.L. Starkey found in a group of 18 potsherds bearing on their surface several military messages written by an army officer to a superior officer stationed at Lachish. This is at the conquering of Judah by Babylon. And an account of the military communications on pieces of pottery. One of these letters complains that the royal officers had sent out circular letters which were weakening the hands of the people. The army officer who wrote this Lachish letter used the expression weaken the hands to describe the effect of the over-optimism of the royal officials, whereas the officials referred to in the book of Jeremiah in turn had used the same expression in describing the effect of Jeremiah's realistic prophecy concerning the approaching fall of Jerusalem. The royal officers were deemed guilty of the very action which they sought to ascribe. All right. It gives We got to find that again. Okay. Sometimes my fingers wave over the top of this little pad here. All right, we're getting near the end here. Sought to ascribe to Jeremiah. So, very similar to the Old Testament accounts about the other side of the point of view in Jerusalem. And Gedaliah seal. John Elder points out yet another find in addition to the ostraca, which adds even more weight to the biblical library story of Lachish. A nearby city fortress of Lachish provides clear proof that it had been twice burned over a short period of time, coinciding with the two captures of Jerusalem. In Lachish, the imprint of a clay seal was found. Its back still showed the fibers of the papyrus to which it had been attached. It reads, "The property of Gedaliah, who is over the house." We meet this distinguished individual in 2 Kings 25:22. There he is, we are told, at the same time. And as for the people that remained in the land of Judah, whom Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, had left, even over them he made Gedaliah ruler. What more can you ask? If you ask for a point of coinciding, that would be one of the best. So, the significance of Lachish findings and the conclusion. Halpert concludes the real significance of the Lachish letters can hardly be exaggerated. No archaeological discovery to date, prior to the Dead Sea Scrolls, has had a more direct bearing upon the Old Testament. The scribes who wrote the letters, for there was more than one, wrote with genuine artistry. That's interesting. Oh, somebody said, well, only one person wrote all these letters, even if they say they're real. But different scribes. Evidence of that. So, the scribes who wrote the letters wrote with genuine artistry in classical Hebrew, and we have virtually a new section of Old Testament literature, a supplement to the prophet of Jeremiah's writings. Free put a simple closing to his study at the subject of this time. This summary archaeological discoveries show point after point that the biblical record is confirmed and commended as trustworthy. This confirmation is not confined to a few general instances, but thousands of instances. What more do you want? So, despite you count all the manuscripts and then the potsherd pieces, extra biblical ones, and all the other archaeological discoveries that confirm the time, place, events, and people, names of people. New Testament confirmation of the Old Testament. Another area where the Old Testament is confirmed is available from the New Testament. There are numerous remarks by Jesus himself, the apostles, and various other biblical characters of the New Testament that confirm the trustfulness of the Old Testament narrative. Jesus' confirmation. The Old Testament record records that Jesus believed the Torah to be from Moses. Especially in John 5:5-47, Jesus states unequivocally his belief that Moses wrote the Torah. Do not think that I shall accuse you to the Father. There is one who accuses you, Moses, in whom you trust. S. Eisfeld states the name used in the New Testament clearly with reference to the whole Pentateuch, the book of Moses, is certainly to be understood as meaning that Moses was the compiler of the Pentateuch. Biblical writers' confirmation. The New Testament writers also held that the Torah, the law, came from Moses. The apostles believed that Moses wrote first the law. John writes the same in John 1:17. Paul speaks of Pentateuchal passage, asserts Moses writes. Other passages asserting this include all these other references. And here, there's a chart, dozens and dozens, 32 references, Old Testament event, New Testament reference. So you've got corroboration beyond just simply copying or details. Somebody who wants to create a conspiracy, this is too much detail. They're going to make mistakes. And here it is. All these, look at these. Creation of the universe, of Adam and Eve, marriage of Adam and Eve, temptation of the woman. Is there anything that is a discrepancy? No, it's all corroborated. 32 and many more. So we're going to close this out. This study is closed out. More on this proof of your salvation through evidence of the reliability of the Bible, going into contradictions.